Good morning, friends. Today we'll be reading a story of people that traveled west on the Oregon Trail. Do you remember the Morgan family that moved to the West by choice? Like the Morgan family, some people chose to move west on their own because they were looking for a better life. Some of the settlers who chose to leave their homes and move farther and farther west followed a route called the Oregon Trail because it led to the Oregon Territory. A territory is an area of land that belongs to a country's government but isn't yet a state or a province. The Oregon Territory belonged to the US government but wasn't yet an official state. As you can see on the map here, the Oregon Trail was a path through the wilderness beginning in the state of Missouri and ending in the Oregon Territory. The wagon train was moving westward along the Oregon Trail. The families walked beside or rode in large covered wagons pulled by oxen. Each family had only one wagon, but that wagon was able to hold almost everything the family owned. Let's pause and think. What kinds of things do you think the families took with them? Do you remember the kinds of things the Morgans took in going west? Each family packed food, things like flour, potatoes, and beans. They took clothes, blankets, soap, candles, furniture, pots and pans, china, and rifles. They even had to take barrels of water with them because they weren't sure where they might find clean water along the way. By the time everything was packed in the wagon, there wasn't whole a lot room for much else. In addition to the oxen that pulled the wagons, some families brought other animals such as horses, sheep, and cows. These animals didn't go inside the covered wagons. Instead, they were tied to the wagons with rope and walked behind or beside the wagons. Many of these families were headed to the Oregon Territory, where they planned to settle and make new homes. Back in the East, it had become too expensive for the settlers to be able to own their own land. They hoped that by traveling west, they might find a place to build their own homes. Others chose to go for the adventure of starting a new life. Let's pause and think. Why would families want to bring animals like horses, sheep, and cows? Would you be excited to start such an adventure, or nervous, or both? The road west had been challenging already. The wagon train had been traveling for 3 long months. The settlers were following a rough or uneven trail of wagon ruts to the Oregon Territory. After many wagons followed one path, the ruts became so deep that it was very difficult or even impossible for wagons to travel without getting stuck. As much of the Oregon Trail went through what was known as Indian Territory, the travelers encountered Native American tribes along the way. Sometimes the Native Americans were fearful that the settlers would decide to stop traveling and just make farms right there on their lands. On this particular day, the wagon train moved slowly in 100-degree heat. Thomas Lawrence, a settler and the wagon train scout, rode quickly over to the leader of the wagon train, Captain Jeremiah Ward, to report on the trail ahead. "There's water half a mile ahead, but it is not fit for drinking," Mr. Lawrence reported. "We ought to reach Sweetwater River by noon, though, and that water is safe." Captain Ward nodded his thanks. "Good work, Thomas." When the wagons reached the Sweetwater River, everyone enjoyed a long, cool drink. Captain Ward ordered, "First, we'll take the wagons and the oxen across the river. Then we'll swim the extra horses over. The cattle will go last." To lighten their loads for the crossing, Families removed any heavy objects from their wagons. The settlers brought many of these items to have in their new homes to remind of their homes back in the East. Now, many of these items they'd hoped to have in their new homes had to be left behind. Fortunately, everyone crossed safely. Once everyone was across and settled, they refilled their water barrels and canteens. They would need the fresh water for the next portion of their trip. Then they set up camp for the night. They made small campfires over which they cooked their food, beans, and bacon. How are you liking the story so far, grade 2s? I hope you're enjoying the story, and next class we will be continuing with the next part of the story to find out what happened to our settlers. In the meantime, please work on your quilts attached on Google Classroom, and bye for now.